Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm Michelle Wright, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of self-discovery. This podcast is designed for women navigating life transitions and yearning to embrace their true selves. I'll be sharing my personal journey from navigating the complexities of divorce and blending families to reshaping my career to something that resonates with my soul. With 3 decades as a teacher and mentor, I'm here to share insights, heartfelt stories, and practical strategies. Together, we'll explore how to cultivate self-love and create the vibrant, fulfilling life you deserve. Join me each week as we dive deep into the art of living authentically. Welcome to the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I am your host, Michelle Wright. Today, I wanted to talk about the wheels of change. Over the past week or so, actually, even a bit longer, what I've been hearing from my loved ones and even experiencing in my own life is how things have really been taking some dramatic shifts, unexpected shifts. It just continues to weave its way through everybody's life in a different way. And I was really surprised about that. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I want to talk about it within the lens of several different things. First of all, just through the lens of astrology, through a lens of Aboriginal wisdom, the Australian wisdom that I spoke about earlier. And also through the perspective of yourself and what does this mean for an individual going through the change. And then I'm going to close it like I usually do with just some tips and tricks for yourself, what you could move forward. So I don't know if for you, you've been experiencing change or you have loved ones who are friends and family who have been experiencing change in their lives. I find it interesting because some can be this slow change that it's like that frog in the pot that just slowly boils, meaning that it's just been this slow heat that's been turning up, and it's just, this is enough. It has to change. Some has been those tower moments, that actual crumbling of things and just unexpectedly, where did this come from? And those are the actual words that people are saying. Where did this come from? This is so unexpected. I never predicted it. And what I do find interesting is that there are already seeds that they have for moving forward. They needed to move forward, and maybe this was just the impetus to move forward and make some of these changes. When I have worked with my business coach, Christy Yale, amazing. So I was looking at ways to deal with this change and this uncertainty that just keeps on flowing into our lives. And one of the first ways was astrology. So I have different astrologists that I follow on YouTube, and you start to see astrology like the weather. Working with a coach can be very helpful in your processing and moving forward. Anyway, coming back to astrology, that is one of her areas of expertise. And we were having this beautiful discussion about astrology, looking at it collectively. So when you go on YouTube, they give more collective and either to the rising sign or the sun sign of an individual. And it's looking at how that will impact them in a particular house. So what area of their lives might it be working at? Or looking at, is it a relationships? Is it career? Is it finances? Is it the ending of something? Is it the beginning of something and just starting with themselves? So it really depends on which house is being impacted. And then we looked at collectively what this can mean. And then what is astrology and how can you use it to harness? So if you are having some really negative or challenging aspects in your life, what does that mean? Does that mean that you just stop moving forward? You just flop down? You just say, all this crunchiness has happened. I can't do anything. I'm just going to lay here until it ends. Some planets are in a crunchy sign. Some of the outer planets can be in a crunchy sign for years or decades. For me, that is not necessarily an option. And so we talked about that astrology is really more like the weather. It gives you the weather and kind of the energetic weather, where it's going to be hitting. So you can prepare yourself. You can think about it. So if I'm hitting it in relationships, I'm more aware and attentive to those relationships and recognizing which aspects, or is it benign? Is it really yummy and helpful in the relationships, just nurturing? Is it in my house of relationships? Is it really oppositional and squares? So that means it's challenging and difficult. And if it is, being prepared for that mentally. So for myself, what does that look like? If I know I'm having difficult times, then I see what's coming up and I do the work. For example, where my Mars has been, and it's been in retrograde and moving through, it's really been asking me to look at my own life and go into a reflective state. And the two questions that I'm really asking myself is, what is it that at this time I need to release? And what is it that I want to take with me as I move forward? So what is that future? Living in the each and every moment, what am I releasing? This is the behaviors I don't want. This is the thinking patterns I don't want. And so it's really looking at ways of releasing those and repatterning my thinking, and then looking at the future and how do I want it to move forward. So that's how astrology is helpful for me and is a helpful way as I move forward. Part that I was looking at, just helping to move through these challenging times. And I call it the wheel of change, just the wheels moving, things moving forward. Once again, some unexpectedly, some you've been planning, some have been a slow boil, and now you're actually dealing with them in this time. So another way that I was looking at it is I was thinking back to some of the Australian Aboriginal wisdom that looked at time, and it looked at time from the ancestral perspective. For me, when I looked at that going back generations and generations, was there a specific type of programming that had been in place? Was there a specific way of being that has been in place that now I am invited to look at, maybe interact differently, maybe absolutely, completely release? And when we look at Aboriginal wisdom and time and quantum physics, it's this idea of what we do in the now actually impacts all the directions of time, going back and moving forward. And looking at programming, like this morning in my walk, it just hit me. I have generations upon generations of programming from a female perspective of my ancestors within a culture. So I'm French, Canadian, and Dutch. So looking at those cultures, looking at women within the culture of a Catholic church. So how are we expected to behave? How are we expected to think? How are we expected to react and interact with the divine, with the everyday, with the flora and fauna around us? And I know that I'm currently awakening to the magic and mysticalness of my thinking and the divine, and yet messages coming in nature to me. So one of the things, like I look at feathers, and I don't always get feathers, as I have said in the past. Sometimes I ask for a feather, and a feather comes to me. And the feather that I'm looking at right now, it's a goose feather. So it's this beautiful brown with a little bit of the fluffiness underneath. I'm having this walk, I'm having this talk with a friend, and I pick it up. And I know as I touch it that it has a deeper significance and message for me that at that moment in time I couldn't unfold. And I said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to think about it. This is this Aboriginal thinking, this idea also of looking at time and getting messages from around you, from the flora and fauna around you, from the synchronicities that are happening. And what I was able to look at is I have a couple of books about animal wisdom and mystical animals and what does that look like. And then I read it and using my mind, And then the other piece that I do is, what are the words or images? Just like when I read cards, what are the words, images that just hit? You can feel it. It's like an electricity coming through you. And one of the things that came forward is the aspect that geese, Canada geese, and many other geese, but I know more about Canada geese, mate for life. And then once that mate dies, they are alone. But there is another aspect because they live in community. And if there is a goose that is sick, invalid, stuck, another goose will stay behind and they will stay with them until they recuperate or they pass. And it just gives me shivers even as I say this, because what is so important is that with the geese, they recognize the importance of connecting with each other. They recognize the importance of they will never die alone. They will never be alone. I think that there is deep ancestral wisdom and experiences that I can pull forward. Deep ancestral programming that does not serve me as I move forward in this new era, in this new life, at this time, that is not going to help me live at my highest good and to really shine in the collective, to bring hope and healing for myself, for those I serve, and the larger collective around me, just as I go to the grocery store, as I interact with everyone. And so that's how I see that idea of community, that we are impacting each other. So it's important for me to look at not only programming that I need to release, but the programming of the community and the collective that I need to release. That was a key piece in understanding when I got this feather and I brought this all together in looking at these wheels of change of the Australian wisdom or Indigenous wisdom, because it is true, the Indigenous wisdom, even in North America, in the area in the sacred lands that I'm on in Treaty 7 with the Cree and the Blackfoot, they also look to the land and the messages and that connection and what are the messages. So that's how wonderfully I can get the messages. Now, does every feather have a message for me? Nope. Sometimes I'm chatting with my dad and I'm asking him to send me a message that he's there. And one of the ways is through butterflies, coins, and feathers, white feathers specifically for him. So I get those messages and I know he's saying, hey, Lovey, here's a big hug. I love you. Another way that I've really been looking at, and it ties in with the astrology, it ties in with releasing, is just our own personal energy. What does this look like? So if we think of weather outside of us, I know we have weather inside of us. I actually can vibrate when I'm happy. I can just see light coming out and I'm just flowy and joyful and my face is smiling and I'm speaking. My voice is speaking and I'm giggling and chatting and it's just going up and down. You can just feel that energy. Or the energy of melancholy, of denseness, of that wheel of change being that frog in the boiling water. You can just slowly feel everything boiling, but also just becoming so dense and not moving. And that can be a really hard energy to move through because there isn't any one thing to fight against. And how do you move through that? So really getting in connection with your energy. Another energy might be with all of these oppositions, squares, crunchiness, depending on where it is. Maybe you have flare-ups, anger flare-ups, frustration flare-ups, critical thinking, not critical think, critical thoughts of yourself and others that are hurtful, damaging, and just tear and rip things apart in an angry energy. Getting to think about the energy that you have and how you are connecting with this energy is important. So as I'm going through all of this and taking that temperature, not only collectively outside where I am at, astrology, where am I at inside? What is my energy level? And now the first thing that I come to is I have to ask myself about my health. And I used to get really annoyed with this because I'm like, oh, these healthy people. And I'm saying that with a huge eye roll because I'm like, oh, that's not even really that important. And yet, the more I become deeper to listening to my body, and Carolyn Meese, that she is just one of the current everyday mystics that brings such a deep understanding. And she talks about our intuition, and she's like listening to your soul, listening to your body. She talks about it in simple terms. Are you listening to your body, what it likes to eat, when it's tired, when it's time to go to sleep? So health. When you think of your health, what are you feeding? Food is medicine. So what are you feeding your body? And I know when I'm busy and I'm running and I get all of these processed foods that are already pre-prepared, I know that whole foods, healthy foods are better and it helps me. So what I put in my body is medicine. The food is medicine. That's one of the things that helps me think clearly, feel clearly, and resonate clearly. Sleep, recognizing my sleep patterns. Right now, and I have talked to my husband if I can share some of his stuff, and he said yes. But right now, he's just retired. As of November 30th, he sold his business and we finished our trips, and now here he is. He hasn't been able to have a whole night's sleep. There's lots of things churning in his mind, in his heart, in his spirit. And he's continuing to process. And sleep is important. And so what is our sleep hygiene? Are we making sure that we take care of our sleep? And there's just many different ways that you can do that. But that's another, just the pillar of health. And a third one is movement, walking. So the least we do is walk. Walking for me helps in so many different ways. First of all, that's where I get my messages. I find I do a walking meditation. It's where I can intentionally connect and chat with spirit. I clear my chakras, connect with the trees, I connect with Mother Earth. And then I get these beautiful messages that come with the animals that come to me. And then I can be curious. I can be wondering about the flowers that are coming up. So just even having that wonder and gratitude of life. It's spring here. And it's amazing. You can feel the heat on the sun. Walking, getting out helps. And maybe you can't, maybe you are moving inside your house. So maybe that's something you're doing. But actually, exercise does so many things. It helps for me physically, helps my body build muscle. It helps me digest. It just helps me also energetically move energy in my body. And I've had to really rethink that for myself and not just think, oh, this is about getting healthy. This is about losing weight. This is about all of these things. No, I am shifting all of my health perspective and just say, how is my health helping me be the greatest part of who I am? And actually, as I'm getting older, the language that I'm starting to understand is, how do I have a really long health span with my lifespan? It is looking at being healthy that way. And I know that movement helps me. And actually, I know that working out and having some intense energy, the intense workout, helps me move stuck energy in my chakras, in my body. It just helps move it. And I know it. I feel it afterwards. And even the dopamine hits you get from working out and getting a hard workout, you actually feel better chemically in your body. And so those are the things that for health that are important. A fourth one is people. Who are your connections? Who's your network? I was just listening to a Simon Sinek. He is the author of Why. He's famous for that. Find your why. And he was talking about when things get dark, when things get difficult and we don't speak about it, it actually gets darker. It gets more difficult. Our minds swirl. Our minds stop processing in positive ways. So the moment that you can process, and maybe you're doing it in stages and maybe you're putting it down in a journal, But talking to someone else is essential because as soon as you say it out loud, there's light to it. There's powerful energy in our thoughts and our speaking, and how we speak about it tells us a lot about the energy and ways that we might need to add hope, add healing. We need to release. We need to move forward. So speaking to someone helps you. It shine light in such a helpful way. So one of the checks is I check to myself, do I need to see a therapist? Is it something where I actually need to dig really deep? And a therapist helps you in so many ways, looking at family patterns, looking at how that impacts your own patterns. And therapy has been so important in helping me move forward in my life because it's someone with an outside view that helps. It might be coaching. So I've done life coaching, I've done business coaching, and coaching helps you because it's someone listening, helps you move forward because with that person, you're talking about the future and you're processing and letting things go and then planning towards the future. Maybe it's your friend, maybe it's a family, might even be a community. I've spoken about the Spirit School, Danielle Sarank, Squamish Medium. She has a free part of that community that you can access for free, or she has a paid part. And for me, that community is so important. It's a place where I can talk to people, connect to people like-minded, and I can explore and wonder with them. So how are you connected? What's your network? What I just described are the 4 pillars of health. What I'm also describing is how you can be managing your energy and how this can really impact the wheel of change. For example, I'm trying to help some of my friends and loved ones go through some of these challenges. And what I've seen is that absolute stuckness, that difficulty of moving forward. In some cases, the difficulty of anxiety just coming in, and it's almost like just a grasp on the individual because they can barely breathe as it contracts and doesn't allow them to move forward. And this is really tough. So how do you deal with that? How do you move forward with that? One of the ways you can move forward is recognizing that each and every moment, each and every second, you have personal choice, no matter what's happening around you. And this personal choice, people can talk about it in different ways. I've always spoken about it. It's your locus of control. I'm in control of my thinking. I'm in control of what I do with my body. I'm in control of my environment and what environments I put myself in. Some people will talk about it as your agency, and it's the way that you take your decision-making and you take your power and you empower yourself. You empower yourself to make choices that are for the best good of yourself. So recognizing every moment has a choice. Maybe you didn't have a choice about the things that are happening around you, the tower moment. Maybe you didn't have a choice about changes in job, loss of people, loss of relationships, loss of a place to live. Maybe you didn't have choice of health, and these things are changing and coming in and surprising you. Those things you don't have a choice over. But it's how you respond that you do have a choice over. One of the most powerful ways that I am learning, and I say this, I'm learning, is to be curious and to wonder. She has a book called Sacred Contracts, and in that, she really speaks about this understanding that we came down here and we chose our contracts. We chose some of these difficult human experiences, and the reason why is because it's allowing us to explore, it's allowing us to expand, it's allowing us to heal. So sometimes we might be someone else's tower moment, or they might be ours. So we have these contracts with each other. And that's what she's talking about. She's saying, before you even came down here, these were some of the things that you said, I really want to experience. And in this, I want to have some choices of how I'm going to move forward. For me, when I hear this understanding of spirituality, it helps me if this is some of the choices, and some of them are really horribly negative. But what does this experience offer me from an expansion point of view, from a healing point of view, from a human point of view of what I can release and what I can move forward with? In offering these things, it's been helpful. For me, in this last week, I've had a health diagnosis, and at first, I thought it was going to be more significant. I thought I was going to be diagnosed. So I do have an autoimmune disease on my skin, and it's impacting different parts of my body. We were checking and waiting for the blood work to see if it was even more serious within my blood, within my entire body. And I was just rocked by this. I was rocked by, first of all, talking about the frog in the water. I did see these spots and blotches in different various areas of my skin. I was waiting for my specialist appointment and going, we'll find out. I have this vision of myself. I'm healthy, even though there are aspects of myself that I do not have a healthy lifestyle, as healthy as it could be. And when I got this, and she said, yes, here's your diagnosis. And then as I'm waiting for the possibility of a more serious autoimmune disease and how that will alter and change my future, I was really worried at first. So I had two things happening for me. The reality is I had some choices. So I was anxious. I was nervous. I see myself as a healthy person, and now I have something. And I was amazed by the feeling actually of betrayal of my body. And then I had to be curious. And so I wondered, okay, just from a spiritual perspective, I work with Louise Hay as well. You can look her up. And she does amazing work. And part of what her work is heal your body. And she talks about when you have a very specific part of your body that is ailing, she has affirmations for it. But she also talks about, well, what are the areas that you need to release? So for me, it's in the root chakra and in the sacral chakra. And in the sacral chakra, most specifically, what just resonated was I needed to release shame, fear, guilt. I needed to be a different person from that point forward. And I can't do it in every moment. I'm still a work in progress, like everybody is. And I'm still evolving and I'm still working. But it's to be authentically myself in each and every moment. I am a recovering people pleaser. I have so much shame and guilt. I'm learning to love myself completely and wholly. And that's where that fear can be, fear of being who I am and showing up who I am. That fear can be about being ostracized, made fun of, and just recognizing that I needed to change that. And it was such an aha moment for me. It was absolutely freeing. Recognizing that disease is a physical representation of often what's happening with us energetically. It could also be, Carolyn Meese talks about, a contract. And so I was ready and curious about what that might be. And I was still worried. So I had to work every day at being less worried. I had to work at touching parts of my body and sharing love and loving all parts. And I thought this was interesting. Here is shadow work in the physical form of touching my own body and saying, this part of you I love. That's shadow work, seeing it, seeing the parts that aren't as beautiful, that aren't as perfect, and saying, but you're here to teach me. You're here to help me learn, help me move forward, help me evolve. And this is the choice piece, because you don't have to do that. I didn't have to move forward. I didn't have to look these things up. I didn't have to wonder. I could have stayed in fear, anxiety, shame. I could have not told people. And believe it or not, I was really surprised as well for my own self, because I didn't want to share the diagnosis and the possibility. It just clicked. As soon as I have shame and I want to keep it a secret, then I'm wondering and I'm going, okay, why? Why don't you want to tell your husband about this? Why don't you want to tell your good friend, your children? Why don't you? There's nothing to be shameful about this. This is something you're going to need to deal with as you move forward, and it's okay. It's okay to talk about you're worried. It's okay to say you're anxious. It's okay to say these are the things that are changing and not keep it a secret. That was a choice. And I had to, at times, be aware of my choices, be aware that when I was feeling really melancholy, that I could have a choice to move. And I did my choices in two ways. I said, you know what? I'm going to give yourself compassion. So I'm going to give you 48 hours. And in those 48 hours, you're going to do deep self-care. And what that means for me is I love salt baths. I love flowers. I love beautiful, smelly things, books, and just putting my headphones on, listening to music, podcasts, also opting out, giving myself 48 hours, hand on my heart saying, I love you, girl. This stuff is hard. Life is hard. Humaning is hard. And it's okay. It's okay to take care of yourself and just do these things. And yeah, food is also a way that I do it. I'm trying to change this, not yet there. So I did also have cinnamon buns and cheese and crackers. Those are the things that I just absolutely love. So in those 48 hours, I just said, you know what? Enjoy. Just enjoy. Just be this human who's struggling with difficult things. And then I started moving forward, wondering. I started looking up and I started being curious again. And that's where I found out about the chakras and the root chakra and the sacral chakra. And it really got me thinking about that. And I reread I have it on audio, which is more of it's not an abridged version of Sacred Contracts. It is a workshop she did. But I started listening to that again and it helped bring agency back into my life. And it helped me recognize the choices and just that curiosity of what can I be learning from this? What can I share from this? What can be happening? And then yesterday when I went back from all of my tests, she says, no, you do have the first autoimmune response on your skin, but you do not have the more serious autoimmune disease in the rest of your body. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. And another piece I said to myself, you have to move forward. This shame, guilt, this is on your body, and you need to recognize what you were offered to learn here. I was offered some learning, and how am I going to move forward so that I don't fall back into that same pot and continue to boil so that I can continue to move forward with my health? And really looking at what I eat and how I move and all these different things and different supplements and hormones as you're 56 are really important too. And just looking at all of that. And I said, no, keep moving forward. You're not that same person and you had a chance to expand and move forward. So what does that mean if you yourself are experiencing wheels of change? Or maybe you're listening to this and someone else is having the wheels of change go over their life. To also think instead of just this nice wheel moving along, going back, can be the wheels on this big truck rolling right over your life. And for me, that's usually when that has happened to me, it is a time of wake up, girl. You got stuff going on and I need you to move forward. So for those of you that may or may not know, 3 things you can look up are your sun sign, your rising sign, and your moon sign. If you go to astro.com and go to free horoscopes, you need your birth information and you'll see it there. You can look at the information and it will say down below your sun sign, your rising, and your moon sign. And you can Google it then. Look at the weather personally and collectively for you, for your astrology. What's happening if you have wheels of change going on? And be curious. What is more happening out in the world and you're just part of it? What is more happening specifically with you that you need to deal with? Another thing, when I looked at the Aboriginal wisdom, that idea of programming, what are ways of thinking that you need to let go of? And what are ways of thinking that you need to embrace? And that's that idea of healing in time, moving in time, recognizing from your ancestors. There is a wonderful fierceness. There is a wonderful wisdom, love that you want to keep and you want to connect to. But there might be some ways of acting, thinking, eating, moving, interacting with others that are not as healthy and not helping you move forward. So then you can look at your programming and make choices to say, I'm going to start repatterning my thinking, repatterning how I think, move, speak, repatterning my attitudes, might become more optimistic. Because one of the things that we do know is that wherever you have optimism, wherever you have hope and light, you actually can move forward. Viktor Frankl talked about that. He was in the concentration camps. And he said often the difference between living and dying in these horrible situations was hope. And you had no control. So he's talking about your locus of control. You have no control about anything, not even at times your body. You have no control over your environment, your body. But you did have control over your mind, your thinking. That's the one thing that you had control over. And it was in there that seed of hope and light was alive. So for you, you have a choice of looking for, finding, nurturing, building the hope that brings light into your life and that brings healing and just helps you expand. It helps you move forward. It helps you to transform into something different, a new version of yourself. And another aspect that you can start to think about and look at is sharing your journey. Who's on your team? Who are your top 5? Jody Carrington talks about your top 5. The people that name you, the people that listen to you, the people that hold you. And if you don't have them in family and friends, start cultivating them. Start looking for them in online groups. I share the Spirit School with Danielle Sarank and the Squamish Medium, and she has a free and a paid community that you can join. And there's many different communities. There's groups, grief groups within your own community where you are, if grief is one of the things. There's mental health groups. Many of them are free. There's different communities that you can seek online and in person that can help you move forward, that can help listen to you and give you feedback as you are creating that light of hope and healing and moving forward, expanding and transforming into who you want to be. It has been such a great pleasure to be with you and to take time with you. And I send you light and love, because if you or someone you love are in the midst of the wheels of change, it is difficult, it is tough. It can also be exciting, can be transformative. And just that idea of the butterfly going from the goop inside the chrysalis. Literally, they were a caterpillar. They get in the chrysalis. They are goop, mush. There's no form. And then they turn into the butterfly. This is the opportunity that is offered through wheels of change, is to transform into a beautiful butterfly. So thank you for listening. Until next time, lead with your soul.
That wraps up another episode of the Lead with Your Soul podcast. I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. As you navigate your own life transitions, remember to be gentle with yourself and embrace the journey. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Join me next week for more insights and inspiration. Until next time, keep leading with your soul.